Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, this is another Combo League podcast. Sorry it's a late one. We had some technical difficulties, aka I did. My mic decided to go out, and so I didn't have one. But we are in the playoffs right now. As you can see, wild card. You get to see who made the wild card, which is the Browns, Chiefs, Redskins, and 49ers, Patriots and Colts, and Seahawks and Cowboys. Now, we're not going to go into all these games, but you saw the Browns did beat the Chiefs, and New England did lose to the Colts. But the two games I want to talk about was the Redskins versus 49ers and the Seahawks versus Dallas. Those are the two games from the wild card, which completely blew my mind. I am your host, Avengers, like always. Alongside me is a guest host since Lima is out of town. We do have a Prophet, as you can see, the Seahawks is with us today.
What guys?
So, we're going to go into the 49ers and Redskins game. Just off the bat, you can see that the Redskins own this game all four quarters.
Oh yeah, that game shocked me because Blackheart Suave or 49ers, he was in my division and it was always a closely contested game, and I beat Redskins, which it really surprised me that he blew them out like that.
And you see that the turnover difference, the 49ers had six picks. Six turnovers, or not six picks, but six turnovers. We go into the player stats.
Yeah,
As you can see, the Washington quarterback, Brady Wandisimo, 367 yards, three touchdowns, zero interceptions, but sacked four times. Andrew Gordy, who's played decently well this season, 239 yards, zero touchdowns, four picks, and eight sacks. I did not see him being
yeah,
this bad.
me neither. The biggest part that I see that really could have contributed to that is because it looks like Redskins held pretty solid on the pass defensive end, due to the completion and pass attempts. The difference between that, because he threw 13 incompletions,
Yeah.
and four interceptions included into that, but he had a 45% pass completion percentage, and that just wasn't too
But we
good.
do we do know something, which is the rushing game by the Redskins, which was 23 attempts, 172 yards, a 7.5 average, three touchdowns, but a fumble.
Yeah,
But
and it seems like he had one long touchdown run for 86 yards too, so that
yeah,
contributed really well to his
uh,
yardage total.
the receiving, who was the best receiver? Jamison Crowder. Not a surprise to see three attempts, 128 yards, 42.7, one touchdown. His longest was an 89. So it looks like the other two weren't the big contributors. It was just the one long pass.
The one that I actually see right now that caught my eye was the running back for Redskins. He also contributed in the
Oh
passing game
yeah.
with four receptions for 89 yards and two touchdowns.
Which isn't a surprise
That
when he did win multiple awards, probably giving him a bunch of XP to upgrade everything on his side of passing or receiving and running.
Yeah, I mean, he played really well with that running back this year, so hats off to how he's been using him because
And
those
then we'll
XPs
see
will definitely
who
boost
was
up
the
that run game.
defense. Sacks, two by Eli Harold, two by David Irving, and then a bunch of ones, one by Eric Armstead, one by DJ Swearinger, middle linebacker, a right outside linebacker, a defensive tackle, a cornerback getting in there, another defensive tackle, and then his own user Jatavis Brown alongside a right end Bryson Pruitt with half, and then a right outside linebacker and a left end Navarro Bowman each getting a half. So you can see that it was spread out mostly for Washington.
Well, yeah, and you can also tell that he probably used two different players. I mean, it's possible unless it was for because his middle linebacker had two interceptions, which I'm pretty sure those are two user picks. And I'm not sure if I remember correctly when I played him, he did use the safety occasionally, um, but not that often. So he might have gotten two user picks with the safety, but maybe not either because he tends to stick
So
with the middle
yeah,
linebacker.
but we'll see. Let's see who got the fumble recoveries. Right end and a cornerback each getting a fumble recovery. Those are the last two turnovers that the Washington Redskins did give to the 49ers. And any defensive touchdowns? None. So it was all offensive, just defense giving them great field advantage for that offense.
Oh yeah. Uh, the one that also like when you see, yeah, a big part that played too. I mean, granted it was a blowout. Was the time of possession for the Redskins? He had 17 minutes and 5 seconds compared to the 49ers 10 minutes and 55 seconds.
Yeah,
That's pretty big.
it definitely is. So good job to the Redskins in the wild card round. 49ers, maybe they'll make it next season. But then the second game of the wild card, which was yours, and I'm gonna go more into this for you. Mm. But one thing to say is you did not have Bobby Wagner during this game either, did you?
No, I did not.
But
Uh,
I'm gonna go into his game. As you can see, you had it looks like you had it all in the four quarters. Not you had 7 points, or three touchdowns. It looks like in the first three quarters and 10 points in the last quarter. You owned the time possession 15, almost 16 minutes to his 12. Turnovers, you had one less, so y'all both kind of turned over the ball. Your rushing game though was so much more than him, but he did have a better passing game than you did.
yeah. With that game, I just by playing Keon earlier in the season, I, he played great passing wise. Just the turnovers ended up getting to him. And when I was on offense, I just felt, you know what, run the ball, keep time of possession to keep the ball out of his hands because he does have a very good offense.
Yes, especially with T.Y. Hilton as his main wide receiver.
Oh yeah, and you can't take away from Devontae Freeman and his rushing game,
Nah.
especially with that stacked O
I
line.
don't
That
know.
that
I
was a
don't know.
challenge.
We've been going through that if everybody's watched these podcasts where the rushing game for the Cowboys haven't has not been that great with Freeman this season. But let's get into this. Dak Prescott, another tough game for him. 181 yards, a touchdown, four interceptions, no sacks, but Big Ben, 94 yards, a touchdown, and three interceptions. It
Yeah,
looks like y'all
this
had the
wasn't a passing game for me.
no, you 6 for 20 for you, 15 for 28 for him. Just not a good passing game. Rushing game though. Le'Veon Bell, 24 yards, 160 or 24 attempts, 166 yards, a 6.9 average and a touchdown. And Freeman, 13 attempts, 31 yards, a 2.4 average. And you even got Thomas Rawls in there for and Big Ben in there.
Yeah, there's another one that's kind of hidden. If you go further down, there's Trayvon Boykin for one attempt, 0 yards, and a touchdown
How
as
is that
well.
possible?
Goal line sneak or QB sneak at the goal line.
That should at least give him 1 yard.
Nah, it was like
Receiving,
inches.
T.Y. Hilton, like we were talking about, three attempts,
Yeah,
83 yards and a touchdown. 53 though, 53 yards for his longest, so it looks like two attempts were really short, but that long one gave him that touchdown probably.
it sure did. It sure did.
Devonta
He
Freeman,
just
three receptions, 45 yards and 15 average. I guess he couldn't run the ball, so he threw him the ball. Jermaine
yeah,
Curse in
he
there for two receptions, 45 yards, a 22 and a half average, and a touchdown with a 32 long attempt.
then you also have his rookie, oh, not rookie anymore. His second year receiver Thomas Cruz with 6 receptions, 42 yards, and seven
Yeah.
receptions. That was actually his most effective receiver during the game. Maybe not by yardage, but it definitely came. He came in very clutch for needed first downs and all that.
Oh, I bet. And then the defensive side, there were no sacks, but the interceptions, won by like everybody. Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman, not a surprise to see them at all getting picks. Byron Jones, who's a fantastic safety getting himself a pick. Anthony Brown, KJ Wright actually getting a pick. Arthur Brown getting one, and then Fabian Morrow, corner, getting himself a pick. So
Yeah, he
not
had a
really,
lot of picks in the secondary. His secondary is very strong. People tend to deceive his secondary because he has a pretty good pass defense. As you can
yeah.
tell by the quarterback stats, his pass defense is pretty solid.
So, but good job to you in the wild card round. Going into the divisional, since we are in the divisional, as you can see, every game's been played. The Browns are getting a force since the Jets did say he was retiring, and so he did. Washington lost to the boy, which is not a surprise to see with being undefeated. Colts apparently beat the Steelers, and then
Yes,
Seahawks
Colts
at
gets the
Vikings.
force.
I guess we're gonna go into the Panthers at Redskins game. Even though it was a big loss, we of course see that Carolina owned that game for the last three quarters because it was tied up in the first, but in the second, it looks like he just took off and got everything he wanted. Turnovers on both sides were horrendous, 5 and 7. And actually, the Redskins owned the ball most of the time, which is surprised to see that he lost in.
But one that plays a big part, the penalty yards, 25. That might have been five penalties, maybe a 10 and a 15, but I'm pretty sure it was more 5 yard penalties with false starts or even defensively with encroachments or whatever. But that
Yeah.
must have played a big part when it came to driving down the field.
Player stats, Cam Newton actually, which is surprised to see since Trey Berry is actually healthy now, but Cam Newton in the game, 219 yards, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, no sacks on him. And then Brady won DCMO, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, 7 interceptions, and sacked 4 times. And it looks like Cam Newton didn't really throw the ball that much. 8 attempts, 17 or 8 completions out of 17, and then Brady with 24 for 42.
Yeah, it looks like your boy went more for first down passes on long yardage situations when it came
Rushing,
to the
the
passing
rushing
game.
game, of course, we see Derrick Henry, 22 attempts, 177 yards for an 8 average. That means every 2 plays he gets a first down plus some with 3 touchdowns, 4 broken tackles. Not a surprise to see by Derrick Henry.
And the yak definitely plays a big part. You can tell right after he broke a
Yeah.
tackle, he went for pretty good yardage.
Mm. Maurice Gooch having a horrendous run game. 20 attempts for 85 yards, a 4.3 average. And then you go down, you see Cam Newton, 2 attempts, 21 yards, a 10.5 average with his own touchdown. Which is not a
That's
surprise to
honestly,
see because
yeah.
Cam Newton is a fast quarterback. He's mobile.
Yeah, and when you go into the receiving game, there's actually an eye popper. Charles Johnson, 4 receptions, 141 yards, 35.3 average with 2 touchdowns. Played a pretty big game on long yardage situations.
And he only had a 47 longest reception, so that means every catch he made was a good catch.
Yeah, at least averaging 30 or more yards.
Jamison Crowder, 6 receptions, 80 yards, a 13.3 average, no touchdowns, and then just everybody else. You see the running back, of course, getting back into it for the receiving game. Oh, you come down, Jordan Reed, 3 receptions, 16 yards, and a touchdown. It doesn't look like he even really tried, because his longest was 16 yards, so it looks like he didn't get anywhere with Jordan Reed that game.
Yeah, and from looking at how much the ball was spread out for the Redskins, it looks like he just really couldn't find a receiver that would work against your boy's defense
Which is not a
besides
surprise,
his
because
running back.
your boy does have a good passing defense and a rushing defense.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
very solid on both ends of that for sure.
and then we'll see the sacks. Shaq Thompson. There we are. Shaq Thompson getting his 2 sacks. C.J. Mosley getting one, and Fletcher Cox. Passing defense right there with Shaq Thompson and Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, and then with interceptions, you have too tall the third, three
Which is
interceptions.
actually, which is funny because apparently Too Tall the Third was a free agent that was 6'7", and he wasn't that fast or anything. He was just really tall, and
Yeah,
he,
it was actually a defensive end that he transitioned to middle linebacker
yeah.
because of the height, and he had decent speed for being a defensive end that he could transition to the linebacker. So he changed him, and it's definitely playing big dividends into his
But then
interception
you see
category
Jatavis Brown
because
actually getting three interceptions himself. So two middle linebackers usered for 3 picks.
actually, well, there's another middle linebacker, C.J. Mosley, with two interceptions.
I don't.
So
I actually traded him C.J. Mosley earlier in the year. I don't think he actually uses C.J. Mosley at all.
he might have switched off with too tall. Because from what I know, when talking to your boy, he says that he likes using too tall in the red zone more
Hmm.
often for his red zone defense. So he might still use C.J. Mosley. I'm pretty sure he does, but
Ed
definitely playing big
Palomalu getting
dividends.
himself strong safety. Nash Whitman. Why does Nash Whitman and Ed Palomalu both look the same?
He
Same
said he was
character.
trying to get everybody to look like Troy Polamalu.
They both look the same, man. They're like they're brothers. Both getting
Identical twins
picked.
with different last names.
Thomas Gay having an interception, and then DJ Swearinger also having an interception. But it looks like there should be a defensive touchdown. Jatavis Brown and C.J. Mosley each having a touchdown. But C.J. Mosley looks like ran 34 yards for his,
Yeah,
or 18. I
34.
don't know which one, but Jatavis Brown 13. But good job to your boy, like always,
Yeah, definitely.
trying to get himself back-to-back Super Bowl wins. And then
Yeah,
we
I
had,
mean,
yeah,
as we can tell from the next game on the schedule, that he
oh,
will be facing Debo again in the NFC Conference
championship, yeah.
Championship.
And it doesn't see Devo. What a surprise! Devo had no rushing game, which is a surprise. He had more of a passing game. Oh, but you did turn over the ball
Yeah,
8 different times to him.
I give honestly all hands down to Debo. His defense has drastically improved.
Mm.
That defense is extremely solid. I tip my hats off to him for sure.
Uh, Teddy Bridgewater 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, sacked 3 times. Big Ben 160 yards, 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 3 sacks. So
And
it
then in
doesn't.
the rushing game, Latavius Murray for 20 attempts to 50 yards carrying, and Le'Veon Bell for 8 and 20 yards carrying.
Uh, so there wasn't a rushing game.
No, there was not. This was a pretty much a pretty good defensive battle. Just time of
I'm actually
possession
gonna have
played a big
to
factor.
tell commissioner to change Donta Foreman's weight because Donta Foreman is not 250. He's actually 236 now.
Oh, I just noticed that. Yeah, you're right.
Because he was 249 and lost, or 249 and lost 13. Or no, I think he lost 16 pounds. So he actually should be 233.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that too because they did talk about it in the combine that he lost a lot of weight before
Yeah,
then.
but then the doctor saw that he had a fracture in his foot that he didn't even know about, so he didn't get to do his combine except for a bench press.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. Receiving, who like it looks like it was spread out. Allen Robinson actually doing the best in the receiving game for yards, 2 receptions, 74 yards, 37 average. Jake Butt, a tight end, 4 receptions, 71 yards, 17.8 average, and a touchdown. Latavius Murray and Laquan Treadwell each having a touchdown themselves.
Yeah, he used Jake Butt very efficiently. I will say that he did a lot of high passes, and the height advantage with Jake Butt that
Yeah.
played very huge. So he played very smart in that aspect.
And then you said defense, so I'll let you take over this defense, starting with sacks.
Yeah, defense starting with sacks. Frank Clark came off the edge pretty decently, but it didn't really end up helping too much in the game. And then the pass rush from Debo, he only had 3 sacks in total as well, but the pressure that was applied in that game from his defensive line was insane. I had absolutely no time in the pocket. Um, there was no chance. I had to do
I
quick passes in against the secondary and the
I know
linebacking
that
core with their
feeling. I
speed.
played Debo earlier in the season, and Von Miller just on that side of my line makes it where because that line's weaker, Von Miller was getting through a lot.
Oh yeah, he was getting through very fast. He kind of spreads Von Miller a bit further out, like he puts him further out because he has the speed to get past the tackle. So you have to get the ball out fast. But yeah, with his linebackers and the speed as well, on top of that, it
Yeah, it
caused a
sucks when
concern
you
with
have
the
Quan
offensive side.
Alexander and Anthony Barr. It's just there's nothing to do in the middle with those two.
And then he also has Tim Williams on the other side that he can lay the wood. The dude's a hard hitter.
Yeah. So
Interceptions, he had 2 interceptions with Quan Alexander. Anthony Barr had one as well. Xavier Rhodes, Steven Terrell, Darius Slay. And then for my side, I had Deshaun Shedd, Earl Thomas, and Arthur Brown. There were a lot of interceptions thrown in this game.
I looked at the forced fumbles. It looks like Anthony Barr forced one, but Von Miller, of course, forced one himself and recovered it.
Yeah, I actually remember that play too. Straight up the middle, Miller came through out of nowhere, popped them before he even moved. The ball was out. It was frustrating.
Well, good job to Debo. Good job to yourself. You made it to the divisional round of the playoffs, so that's a pat on the back for you.
Yeah, it was a good run, but definitely more room for improvement. And hats off to the winners who make it into the conference championship because they all deserve it. Definitely, very
But
good group going into the conference
we
championship.
did say we know who's going in. The Browns versus the Colts and the Panthers at or versus the Vikings for the conference championship. Who do we think is going?
You know, to start off, let's start on the AFC side. Browns versus Colts. This is actually going to be a very interesting game because both of these players know each other very, very, very well. From the edge that I've heard or what I know about is that Taco plays a pretty fair game against Maldo, and he tends to come out on the winning end, but Maldo will come up occasionally and surprise him like when he least expects it. So in this game, I would honestly have to say I would choose Taco to win this game because he's coming in full pressure. Was the 6th seed in the wild card round, so he's an underdog, and I think he's the dark horse that makes it into the Super Bowl.
Hmm. I don't know about that one. I think the Browns have it just because his team is so all it's a good team and it's balanced on both sides of the ball. He does have J.J. Watt, so it's like the Vikings. He's got J.J. Watt on one side. So if J.J. Watt gets pressure, I think it's gonna go to him.
It could go either way, but
And then
they both know each other. Whoa,
well, it looks like we already advanced.
sure looks like it.
But Vikings at Panthers, this happened last season, and the Panthers came out on top.
Yeah, this is probably the game for this week. This will be a very competitive game between two very defensive-minded teams. This one, honestly, who the turnover battle will play a big role. and
Hmm.
whoever keeps the most time of possession. It's hard to say exactly who will win this game.
If I had to choose, I'm thinking your boy goes back to another Super Bowl and tries to win out again for the second season in a row.
I'm actually going to lean the opposite way. I think Debo is really, he really wants to get revenge for last year because it was a very close game. And if I remember correctly, your boy actually came back and won as well. So I think Debo has a little bit of salt in his mouth, and he just wants to get some revenge and get to his first Super Bowl with the Vikings.
Hmm. Well, if y'all did enjoy this, and I hope y'all did, we're back and we're gonna try to get back on schedule. Hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Or if you've been on the channel and you just haven't done it, it really mean a lot to us. It mean a lot to Lima when he gets back to see this channel grow. I have to say thank you to Prophet for being here and helping out in this podcast.
No problem, man. Anytime.
But good luck to all the players who are making it to the conference and to the Super Bowl. Good luck to all the people who made it to the playoffs this season, and I hope y'all change up y'all stuff and make it back. It this this franchise is getting really tough for each season it goes. The first season it was kind of laid back, and now the second season it's full force, and I think next season's gonna be even tougher.
Yeah, this year was or for this season, it was a very tight battle going into the playoffs on both sides for the AFC and NFC.
Oh yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if next year it'll be even more competitive.
But as always, I am your host, Avengers. Alongside me is our guest host, Prophet, and we thank you for being here and watching us. If you did like Prophet, maybe we can see him again in another podcast because Lima is going to be away. If you want to see someone else, comment. We want someone else. But if y'all did, hit that like button for us. Thank you.